Hello, it's Karen Burniston here with my monthly designer challenge video. The theme this month is called Ball and Small, and I challenged the team to use our pop-up ball dies to create an animal or character and then pair that with the same animal or character made using our small die sets. For my project, I'm going to be using some brand new dies from our May 2022 release, and then for the small version of the gnome, I will use our Tiny Gnomes die set. With this release, we now have 3 options for our popular pop-up ball dies, and I am going to be using the newest and the smallest, the mini ball pop-up. And then to be able to style the gnome, I will be using Mini Ball Add-ons 1 Gnomes. My very favorite cardstock for use with our ball dies is 100-pound smooth cardstock from the Paper Cut, and we do offer these exact packs, which are 6x6 sheets, 30 sheets in a set, for use with the ball dies, and then we've curated the colors to go with each of the add-ons sets. So one of the newest exact packs is exact pack 9, and it is curated to go with Mini Ball Add-ons 1 Gnomes. The ball is constructed in 2 halves, so I need to pick 4 sheets to make 2 balls, and I'm going to do red on the top to be the hat, and then cream as the bottom half of the top ball, and that'll be the face, and then I have 2 browns to make the body. And then within the mini ball pop-up, I did design it with the best practices assembly that I have been showing for the other ball dies. So there is an extra die in the set that cuts 2 slightly larger trapezoids, and those are what's used to reinforce inside the ball. So for each color, I'm cutting the mini ball half and the extra set of trapezoids. You can use any of your standard die cutting machines. Today I am using a Spellbinders Platinum 6. Okay, so one ball needs 2 of these die cuts, and you can go ahead and remove any of the paper that's stuck in the little triangles or the circles. And then what's important is that you make sure that both of the ball halves are oriented the exact same way, which means you haven't flipped one over. So put them right over the top of each other if need be, just to make sure that they're both exactly the same. And you may want to just mark a little X or something to make sure that you don't accidentally flip one over while you're assembling. Okay, if you are familiar with our ball dies at all, the assembly of the mini ball is identical to those in terms of you just start with the little wings that are next to the 2 rubber band sides. You fold those to the back, then you flip it over and you glue them down. Now I do like a strong glue for any of our ball dies, so I'm using my LINECO neutral pH adhesive in my fine tip bottle, and we do sell both of those items on our website. And I did just fill my bottle right before filming this video, and so I was a little bit heavy with the glue there on this side. But luckily it dries clear and I'm on the inside of the ball. So the sides that have the flaps are the ones that hold the rubber band. So I'm just going to find the 2 folds on that side so that I can see on the inside there the trapezoid shape, and then I'm going to use that trapezoid that I cut at the same time to go in there and really reinforce that side. And since that trapezoid is almost the exact size of the ball, it's just a little bit smaller, you can basically just center it. Okay, and then I repeat that for the other side of the ball. So just gluing in the flaps and then putting on the trapezoid. By adding those trapezoids to the inside of the ball, I'm able to add 2 rubber bands inside the ball, and that does seem to help it have a little bit more spring. Okay, back to the front again, and then I can just go around and work all of the folds around the base of the ball as well as the tabs at the top. So there's little half tabs on 4 of the sides, full tabs on the other 2. Okay, and then that completes 1/2 of the ball, and now I just need to repeat that for the other one. So once I have both sides of the ball with the folds trained and the trapezoids glued on the inside, I can then glue them to each other. And you do that by finding a rubber band side, so that's the one that has the cut and the hole, and then you put that opposite a rubber band side on the other one, and you check to see if they're mirror image, because you may need to flip one around so that they are mirror image. And that means that when you glue those 2 tabs together, both the cut and the hole will line up perfectly. So I add my adhesive to one or the other, and then I think it's probably easiest from inside the ball to just get those 2 tabs together, kind of a kiss connection, and then making sure that the corners are all lined up. And then from the outside of the ball, I can make sure again that it looks straight, that I have corners lined up. I can kind of flatten the you know, tab one way and then the other to just make sure that I have a really good connection. And you can see now the hole and the cut is lined up. And then I repeated the process to do the red and cream ball. And now I'm going back to my exact pack to find some colors for decorating. For decorator pieces, it can be cardstock or it can be paper. So I'm going to use some pattern paper for the lower half of her body. The die set includes 6 trapezoids and a hexagon to make it easy to get all the pieces you need for decorating. With decorator pieces on, it is now ready for assembly. My very favorite rubber band to use with any of our ball dies are the number 12 Soft Stretch Rubber Bands Alliance Pale Crepe Gold. I will put the link in the description box below, but I love these rubber bands and they work in all 3 ball sizes. Okay, first thing I need to do is punch the hole back in at the bottom of the ball that I'm using as the body, because that's going to need a brad so that she can spin in the card. So I just use a regular old office brad, and I just put that in from the inside of the ball and open the prongs up on the back. Okay, now I'm going to take my 2 soft stretch rubber bands, I'm going to put them together, and I'm going to just slide them into the hole on the connected side. And then for one of them, I'm going to twist it around and go back through again. So essentially I'm shortening one of the bands by putting a loop in it so that it is wrapped around and into the hole twice. Okay, now I'm ready to go around the ball connecting the sides, but I have to make sure I go in the direction that does not have the cut in it. So I look here where my rubber bands are, and I need to go around the ball in the opposite direction to the cut. So how do I do that? I add my adhesive to the 2 little half tabs. This is exactly like ball assembly. If you've ever done the surprise ball or the biddy ball, this is going to look very familiar. Then the 2 tabs sit side by side and attach to the other half of the ball. So you're not attaching those tabs to each other, you're attaching them to the other half of the ball. Okay? Then I'm going to go to the next one. Again, we're on half tabs right now. So I just hold that between my fingers. I add my strong adhesive to those 2 half tabs. I do want it to hold up, so I'm not being dainty with the glue. You can see that I'm pretty much shellacking it. I love that dry as clear glue because as it does squish out a little bit, I can just wipe it away with my fingers and anything that's left will dry clear. All right, that brings me around to the other rubber band sides. So the full tab sides, those are a kiss connection. So the adhesive goes everywhere, all over one side, and these 2 do connect to each other. So then I just need to bring them towards the inside and then just make sure that the corners on the outside are really nicely lined up, because that will line up the cut and the hole on the inside for me, as long as I really make sure those corners are lined up. Okay, now I can reach in there and grab the 2 rubber bands and stretch them across and into the hole on the other side. So through the cut and into the hole. And just make sure you don't let go of those bands until they're definitely in the hole. I think when people weaken the little sides, it's because they've let go a little too early. Okay, that has a pretty good spring to it, so I'm pretty pleased with that. But another thing I could do is I could loop the one that's looser, the one that wasn't looped on the other side. I could loop it around this side and through the hole. So basically each rubber band has one loop in it, back through it again. So that's how I could make it even tighter if I need to. And it's holding up nicely with that extra loop, so I'm not going to bother taking it back out again. That looks perfect. And now I just need to seal up the final 2 sides. And those are half tab sides, so just go in there and do like I have been doing. Just put my adhesive on each of the half tabs and then just get them side by side. Press them down, looking at the corners, wiping away any squishy glue. And then the final one. So some adhesive on the half tabs. Put them side by side and attach to the other side. And then just looking at the corners and wiping away any excess glue. Okay, moment of truth. Let's take a look at it. Oh, that looks really great. It's got some nice spring. It's such a cute little tiny little miniature ball. Now, if I have a gap that I don't like, I can push in a little bit and bring one side over the other, and then it tends to kind of bring that gap back together again and make it a little more even. So you can always adjust that way if you need to. Okay, time to decorate the head of the gnome. Now you can use the larger trapezoids that are designed to reinforce the inside of the ball. You can use those on the outside of the ball as decorator pieces as well, especially if you want to mostly cover that side. So that works particularly well when you want to do the skin areas of the gnome and you've got the top half of the ball basically the color of the hat. So by using the slightly larger trapezoid in the skin color, it's not going to leave very much red showing. And in fact, I will actually just put that next to the seam instead of centering it. And then it's going to turn that one panel of the hat into a face color. And then just for, on the bottom it wouldn't have mattered. I could have used the smaller trapezoids, but since I'd used the slightly larger one on the upper, I decided to use the slightly larger one on the lower as well. And for this one, I'm just going to do 3 trapezoids, the one across from the one I added to the hat, and then the 2 next to it on the bottom. There are 3 colors in Exact Pack 9 that could all work for skin tone. So that's a nice thing about dice, is that you are in control of the colors that you choose. Since I am doing a girl gnome and she has braids, I need to mark the 2 sides that are going to get the braids, which are the ones right next to the face on the hat side. And then I'm going to not put the decorator trapezoid on those just yet. So for the red half of the ball, I put red hexagon and trapezoids and just left off the 2 where the bees are for now. On the bottom, I used the braid color for the hexagon and the final 3 trapezoids. Okay, and now I just need to assemble that ball exactly like I did with the other one. Okay, second ball assembled. And you can see it's working great, just like the first one. It's just missing those 2 trapezoids that I need to put on after the braids. Okay, switching now to the Mini Ball Add-ons Gnomes set. I've cut the braids. They have a really cool braid pattern in them, and then there are also some score lines in the piece. So those horizontal score lines should be worked first. So I've got a mountain fold, then a valley fold in the middle, then another mountain at the bottom. And then I'll do that with the other one as well. Mountain fold at the top, valley fold in the middle, mountain fold at the bottom. So it is the longer tab at the top that attaches to the section of the ball where the hat is. So those are the sections that I marked with a B, and I just want to flatten the ball and make sure that the fold line of the braid is right at the fold line of the ball. And then I just kind of have it centered there in the panel. And you can see that you would want to have the kind of more curvy side of the braid towards the back of the ball, and then the straighter side of the braid would be towards the inside, towards the face. So you can see there. Okay, so now the braids are attached, and then once they're attached, then I can add those final 2 decorator trapezoids over the top. Okay, time to attach the head to the body. Now I like to spin the body around until I have a rubber band side that can be opposite the front of the face. So I've got 2 choices there. I just choose my favorite. I just think that they operate nicely when they're both aligned the same way, which means the rubber bands are the same for the top and the bottom half of the animal or character. And then if you flatten it, then it makes it easy to line those up and make sure that you have them aligned perfectly over the top of each other. Okay, giving that glue just a second to set up, and now I have the head attached to the body and I can anchor the braids. Now those braids are sized so that when you stack 2 mini balls together, then the fold line that's at the base of the braid will perfectly line up with the fold line on the bottom ball, so that middle seam there. So what you can do is just make sure that that fold line is right on the edge, the seam between the 2 balls, and then you can kind of collapse it to give it a good pinch. And then what you'll have is you'll have those braids anchored to the top and the bottom ball so that they will fold into the piece and doesn't add to the footprint of your card when the card is closed. So I've cut some of the other pieces out of the add-ons set to be able to finish her out. Now I prefer to cut the sleeves that are in the set out of whatever color shirt that I have on the bottom ball, and then I brush ink around the outside in the same color as the ball itself. So since I have a yellow shirt on a brown ball, I did yellow sleeves with brown ink. And then you have the little hands, those can be glued up behind the sleeves. Next, I'll add the hat by just putting some glue on that front section and then just gluing the hat on so that a little scoop of skin color kind of shows below. And then that is where I attach the nose. Next, I'll put on the smile that comes in the add-ons set and then the arms. And then for one of them, I went ahead and attached the little mushroom that comes in the set so that she is holding it. The add-ons set also comes with a little buckle, which I've cut out of a gold mirror cardstock. And then I'm just using a tool to go in and kind of hollow out the slots on it to make it easier to slide the belt through. And for the belt, I cut that out of black mirror cardstock. And you can definitely add that belt above the fold or below the fold. So I've chosen below the fold for this gnome. If you would like your gnome to have shoes, just use the nose die for that. So that oval makes the perfect shoes as well. And then you just want to make sure that you don't pin down your brad when you're adding the shoes. For the hair bows and hearts, I took those out of the mini ball base set. So that set does come with a bow that can be used as a hair bow or a bow tie. And then it also comes with 2 size hearts. Okay, she's ready for a card, and then I just needed a tiny gnome to match. Now there is an assembly video on the tiny gnome, so I'm not going to go over that assembly in this video, but just to say that I just basically matched the styling of the big one. The belt for the tiny gnome, I actually took it out of the big set and then I drew on the mouth with a red pen. Okay, time to get these gnomes in a card. So I started with a piece of heavyweight cardstock, 6.5 inches wide by 8 inches long. I scored that in the center at 4 inches and then 1/8 of an inch off of that 4-inch line. So basically when I fold this up, I have kind of a gusseted fold and it comes a little short on one side, which is good because that's the side I'm going to put the flap on. I will be using our new long flap and closure die set. And that flap is designed with these notches to allow you to easily cut that flap down into a 6-inch flap or a 3.5-inch flap. So it's very much designed to work wonderfully with slimline cards, but of course you can use that anytime you want to on any size card. Just trim down the flap to fit. So if you use the notches, the outside notches, you will get a 6-inch flap. Another nice feature of the flap is that it has an optional double fold. So if you work just the inside fold, then you just have a single fold flap. You can glue that behind a card. Works great as a closure. But sometimes you may want to have the gusseted fold, especially if you're going to stack up balls to make a character or an animal. Then you might want to have a little dimension to your card. And so in those cases, you would engage the second fold, and then you would have essentially a gusseted flap. I decided to stick with a 6-inch flap, even though my card is 6.5 inches tall. And so then on the corners, I decided just to use a 1/4-inch corner rounder. And then for gluing the flap to the card, I just need my strong adhesive in the outer section and glue that to the back of the card so that the edge of the card basically comes to the outer fold line so that you have the full gusset with that flap. So before I can work on the inside of the card, I need to get the closure on, which means I need my decorator paper on the front of the card. So there's a decorator flap piece that comes in that set. I just had to trim it down to fit the 6-inch. And then for the main body of the card, I'm using our short rectangles crosshatch. Okay, adding the washers and spacers, I first need to mark the location that I want them to end up in. Then I need to open the card all the way up so that I can punch down through just the flap and through just the front of the card. Then I stack up 3 spacers around each of those holes on the front of the card. Then I like to put my twine down through the spacers and into the inside of the flap. But you can always choose whether you want your twine to be on the flap side or whether you want your twine to be on the main body of the card. And then I'm going to put my washer over the top and attach it with a mini brad. And then that will also hold the twine down on the inside of the card until I get a chance to put some paper. Then the other one, I just need the washer and the brad. So just a simple little twine closure, wrap the twine between the 2 washers and the card will stay closed. I decorated the inside of the card with pattern paper so that it would cover the brad prongs. And then now I'm ready to add the gnome. So one thing I can do is use the die itself to help me get the hole in the right spot. I can collapse the gnome down, line it up over the die. Now the die doesn't have to fit between the folds, but she does. So I'm just looking at the edge of the red cardstock to make sure it's within the folds. And then I can remove her and use that die to mark the location of the hole. So I pierce a hole in the card, and then I need to collapse the gnome down and keep it collapsed while I open up those brad prongs. If I let the gnome expand while the brad prongs are open, then I risk the brad falling out and into the inside of the gnome, and then I have to try and get it back in there. So just keep the ball collapsed until the brad prongs are through the card and opened up on the back. And I felt like I was going to easily crumple her hand if I didn't move that one arm. So I just tore it off of there, and I'm just going to move it up a little bit to give her a little bit more room in the card. And then once the gnome is in the card, I can add one of those crosshatch rectangles to the back of the card, and that will cover the brad prongs. All right, for the front of the card, I'm using Miss You, which I cut out of our Word Set 14 Hugs. And then to make a little backdrop for my tiny gnome, I used our crosshatch squares and then a couple of the mushrooms out of the larger set. Inside the card, I'm back to my short rectangles crosshatch again, layered up a few rectangles for the right side of the card. And then there is a line of flowers that's in that set. So I'm adding those on the left side of the card, have bent them into an interesting angle. And then I'm going to add to that the rest of my greeting, which is my friend, spelled out using our new mini alphabet and numbers set. And that's a great little small block alphabet that includes numbers, shadows, and punctuation. My recommendation for envelope size is either that number 10 business envelope that you would use for a slimline card. It will fit in that. Or if you wanted to, you could go with an A7 envelope, which is for a 5x7 card. It fits nicely in that envelope as well. In either case, this card is going to be over 1/4 of an inch and will require extra postage. And I just think this is such a sweet card for someone to receive. Miss you, my friend. That cute little gnome that pops up and spins around inside the card. And of course, just use this as a roadmap. Choose your own colors, maybe swap to the boy gnome, whatever you want to do to customize this card and make it your own. Definitely welcome you to give it a try. Most of the dies I used this month are from our brand new release, and that does not go live on our website for sale until May 16th. So if you are watching this video anytime before May 16th, 2022, the links that are in the description box are not going to be working just yet, but once May 16th comes, they will be working. On the blog post, which you will find the link in the description box, you will find pictures of this card as well as links to all of the wonderful ball and small inspiration by our talented design team. Thanks for watching. If you click on the website link, you'll go to KarenBerniston.com, where you can purchase these dies as well as find links to our other social media accounts. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.